But I've never been on top of this world. With one look you want, girl. White Adidas on bare feet. T-shirt hiding your two-piece. Angel beneath the makeup. Wake I could only make it. Never have I ever. No, I've never seen something like you.
If you're watching this, you're probably interested in river cruises, or bicycling, or maybe you just want to see Europe up close. For me, it was all three. Join me for some highlights of the bike and barge cruise we took from Bruges, Belgium to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. You'll get to experience an amazing variety of sights as we bike and boat through this beautiful countryside.
Be magic, you're all seven wonders, wrapped up in one girl.
To give you a better sense of the tour, we'll take it day by day, letting you know where we are and where we're heading that day. We'll travel to little towns like Vianen and big cities like Antwerp. We'll see farms, canals, bridges, ferries, monuments, and of course, windmills.
Never have I ever, no, I've never seen something like you. Seen something like you.
There are 8 days on the tour. On the first day, you board, check out the boat, test out your bike, and meet the other passengers, the crew, and the captain. The last day, you disembark in the morning, so that leaves 6 days where the ship and the bikers are moving from place to place. 6 stages from Bruges to Amsterdam. Bike day number 1, we go from Bruges to Ghent. Each day is a unique experience. Sometimes you're on the bike, sometimes you're on the boat, and often you're swapping back and forth. I didn't recognize this structure at first. It's a drawbridge. The section over the boat is the raised roadway. There are so many drawbridges in this part of Europe, and each one is distinctive. It felt like we never saw the same kind of drawbridge twice. On our bikes on the first day, heading from Bruges to Ghent, notice how much the countryside varies as we ride from little towns to extremely remote areas to urban areas to rural and back again. Every day you ride, you have a choice of a longer or a shorter bicycle route. Whichever length you choose, you're sure to come upon some spectacular sights, like this windmill. Every day the cyclist would have 2 planned stops, one for a mid-morning coffee and then another later for lunch. Okay, sometimes ice cream. If you like being near water as much as I do, you would love this experience. We rode past countless bodies of water, from tiny streams to canals, large and small, to mighty rivers. Here we are coming into Ghent. This was a happy novelty for me, an underground parking garage built for bikes only. Ghent, which is the 3rd largest city in Belgium and the capital of the East Flanders province, has a lot to see. So we got on a tour boat, adding another boat to our boat and bike tour, and got a good look at some of the sights and learned a bit about the history of Ghent. After the boat tour, we rode our bikes to the far side of Ghent. We crossed a bridge, and there was our boat, waiting for us after a long day. Our group, the Short Ride Group, rode 21 miles that day, which earned us, we figured, a lovely view from the ship's window. Dinner on board was amazing. The chef always conjured up something excellent, and each night was a different style of cuisine. On several of our nights on board, one of our bicycle tour leaders, Franz, sat down and played the piano and invited us to join in. Bike day number 2, on our way to St. Amands. The boat is leaving for its next stop as we riders get ready to leave on bicycle. We stopped briefly at the Laarne Castle, which was built during the 11th and 12th centuries. It's amazing how old structures are in Europe compared with our buildings in the US. Here's a fun place we stopped. The front room has scads o' chocolates. And the back has coffee. I don't know if you can get much better than that. Coffee and chocolate. It's a beautiful day for a bike ride. I love these flower towers. They were all over this part of Belgium and quite wonderful to see. You can see the landscape is changing and then changing again. And nearly every day we were there, it rained. But luckily, not for very long. Here we are getting on the Berlaare to Appels ferry in Belgium, crossing the Schelde River. Of all the ferries that we saw and traveled over the course of this trip, all but 2 only carried bikers and pedestrians, no cars. It's a very bike-friendly region. The captain had an open-door policy. You could visit the wheelhouse anytime the ship was underway to watch him navigate.
3 hours later, it's high in Ghent.
It was fascinating.
So now we're going back.
We docked that day in this charming little town in St. Amands. We wandered around during the evening and were captivated by how picturesque it is, especially at sunset. Bike day number 3, off on our way to Antwerp. First stop, the Castle of Bornem. Talk about ancient, there's been a structure on this site for over 1,000 years. It's like England, but it's not. Next stop, Temse, a small city of some 30,000 people in East Flanders, Belgium. This magnificent piece of architecture is the town hall. They know how to do it up here in Temse. We are lucky enough to get there while the outdoor market is in session. All sorts of intriguing sights, sounds, and tastes. That's the Schelde River you see on the left. This river flows from France through Belgium and into the Netherlands, emptying into the North Sea. And we were on it, or following it, for a good part of our trip. Here's something you don't see every day. a square tree. Another ferry for bikes only takes us into Antwerp. Eat your heart out, cars.
And now we're in Antwerpen.
Greeting us as we rode into Antwerp was the Grote Markt, which is this huge plaza filled with stunning historic architecture. Our guide Frans told us the story of this monument, the Brabo Fountain, which depicts the origin legend of the city of Antwerp. I bet you want to know more, right? Well, that's what search engines are for. Later we rode to the other side of Antwerp where our boat was docked. After dinner, we went to the Maas Museum, which allows the public free access to its upper floors and the stunning views there of Antwerp and the Scheldt, the river that we have been following since Ghent. The industrial working side, the port side of Antwerpen, home of the Red Line Museum. Actually, that wasn't the top. This is the top. Schelde River. There's some serious majesty there. And if you look at it, wind turbines too. The amount of power they're putting out, or generating here, just on the edge of the city. Pretty staggering. Bike day number 4. Drawbridge is up. We leave Antwerp, heading for the Kruibeke locks in the Netherlands. We are in the forward salon with Frans as we leave Belgium. We just crossed over into the Netherlands.
Holland, and we call it the Netherlands. And the Netherlands used to be Belgium and Holland.
Each day on this tour was a unique experience, depending on the logistical possibilities of available bike routes, waterways, and even the tide. On this day, we were all together as the boat sailed, both in the beginning and the end of the day. The biking happened in between. Other days were completely different. This coffee stop in Bergen Op Zoom is located near a well-known climbing wall. We climbed their tower instead. The view was great, and the coffee wasn't bad either. The Canadian War Cemetary is a memorial containing the graves of over 2,300 Canadian soldiers who gave their lives during the Second World War. Quite moving to see this.
Here we are. Are we in Tholen Forest yet? We're not sure.
Not long after that, we stopped to see a lake, except there was only sand to be seen. Dry sand.
So this is what you call a lake here?
A bit further on there is a bit more water.
Yeah, okay, but I don't see how there could be a bit less. Heading through Bergen Op Zoom, the countryside seemed almost magical. I'm just going to let the music play until we get to our next stop, so you can enjoy the scenery.
Lunch.
We stopped for lunch at Fort De Roovere, an earthen fort built in the 1600s during the 80 Years' War, defending the locals from Spanish attackers. It was used again to defend against the French in the 1700s and the British in the early 1800s. After that, it was abandoned until 2010, when an ambitious restoration began, removing the extensive overgrowth and restoring the moat.
Not exactly sure what the structure is. Performance space, a stairway to get a view, but it's cool.
That's exactly what it turned out to be, a combination performance space and observation tower. The tower, frankly, felt like it had an infinite amount of steps. But once at the top, you experience some sensational views of this ancient earthen fort and the nearby countryside. During lunch in this cozy cafe, it started to rain again. In addition to a good amount of rain this week, it was also quite cold for early August. I think it was our tour guide Franz who said that there's a saying around there: there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And that's pretty much what we found. If we were dressed for it, it went well. Later that afternoon, we reconnect with the boat. Back on board, we set sail once again, headed for another set of locks. I've been through a fair amount of locks in the United States, and I find it fascinating every time I do.
Forward lock is closed. And they're closing the aft lock.
That's the great thing about a boat this size. At 220 feet, it's relatively small and intimate, so you can move around the boat and interact with what's going on in whatever way you choose. Most nights, dinner was served while the boat was docked, but this night was different. We had dinner underway while we were on our last leg of the trip to Dordrecht. Bike day number 5.
This is the taxi we're about to get on. And the background is the Magnifique, heading to our next meeting place. When I say taxi, I mean waterbus, or ferry.
It's another bikes-only ferry, and the accommodations are first class. Check out the plush seating with a view. Here we are, arriving at something many of us have looked forward to for much of the trip. Kinderdijk is a site in the South Holland province of the Netherlands, designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1997. It is a captivating place, and it makes you feel immediately like you are stepping back in time. We had a tour of one of the mills. Our tour guide was a miller, and I don't mean his last name was Miller. I mean he grew up in one of the other mills on the site, and he knew everything there was to know about windmills and their place in history.
Yeah. And did you see the cradle for the little baby slept in? When there was new, all the kids slept in. And there was a new baby.
Here is some of the language from UNESCO's World Heritage Designation document that I thought worth sharing. Kinderdijk is an outstanding human-made landscape that bears powerful testimony to human ingenuity and fortitude over nearly a millennium. It's an extremely ingenious hydraulic system that, throughout the ages, made it possible to settle and cultivate a large area of peatland. Its Dutch drainage techniques were copied and adapted in many parts of the world. And here was the most surprising part to me. The 19 mills that form this group of monuments are all still in operating condition. way toward Vianen, today's final destination. And the scenery is one picturesque view after another. And just in case you're thinking that windmills only exist in heritage sites these days, that's just not the case. This freestanding windmill appears to be privately owned. And we saw a lot more like that. What are we doing here? We are waiting for a ferry in Schoonhoven. And this one is the exception that proves the rule. I never understood that expression. It carries bikes and cars. After a brief rendezvous with a boat and the opportunity for bikers who are tired to get on board, we remaining cyclists bid farewell to our boat and head on towards Vianen. Mid-afternoon stop for ice cream in Lopik. This bicycling thing is really tough duty. Our guides told us that once inside this part of the Netherlands, we could expect a headwind all day long. And that was pretty much the case. Made me so glad I'd opted for the e-bike. Finally, we arrive in Vianen, a town of some 20,000 people that first officially received its city rights in 1337. Yes, that's right, 1337. If you see an arch in a building that you can ride your bike through, you kinda gotta do it. Or so we thought. A good day on the road, 58 kilometers from me. That's 36 miles, but it sounds like so much more in kilometers, doesn't it? Bike day number 6. The staff has kindly placed the bikes all in a row on shore awaiting us for this, the final ride day.
Last day. Off we go, a small group for the shorter run. I think there's 6 or 7 of us. And yet, blue skies on our last day of riding.
This Netherlands town is called Breukelen. And yes, the New York City borough Brooklyn is named after it.
Our tour leader, Willem, told us that many of these larger mansion-like structures were built by successful Amsterdam merchants here in Breukelen, if I'm saying that right. forest. There's the canal. Out there in the backyards of these lucky few.
Lovely windmill, indeed. Entering Vreeland, where we stopped to visit a family dairy business that makes Dutch farmer's cheese. It was delicious.
8 o'clock it was milk. It was coming out of the cows. And this morning we make cheese. Big difference between farmer's cheese and factory cheese.
Yep, still another windmill. You can never have too many. Overall, we were very lucky with the weather. Even on the rainy days, it didn't rain that long, at least not while we were riding. But compared to the other weather we'd seen this week, this last day was our blue sky day. Later in the afternoon, we started to notice that the bike path was getting wider and had more riders on it. Then the bike path turned into a bike ramp onto a bridge, and we knew we must be on the outskirts of Amsterdam, our final destination.
Coming into Amsterdam. Looking more and more city-like.
I really loved Amsterdam. I think it's a great city. It's so bike-friendly. I mean, look at all those bike racks. Although the bicycle traffic can be a bit intimidating for tourists like us, you've got to pay attention all the time to all the vehicles. And, another plus for me, Amsterdam has waterways practically everywhere, from a wide variety of canals to the mighty Amstel River to the Het IJ, where we're heading. We made it safely to Centraal Station, Amsterdam's transportation hub.
Ferry's up ahead, and our boat awaits.
From there, we grabbed the free ferry to North Amsterdam across the Het IJ. The Het IJ is yet another major Amsterdam waterway, and by the way, it's spelled H-E-T-I-J. On the other side, we clear the crowd and start to pedal forward.
Final leg, I think. Oh, yes, because there's the boat. Just off the ferry, and there's the boat.
We arrive, and Franz calls for us to give ourselves a round of applause. We happily comply.
Well, we're here. It's a feeling of a little bit of sadness and a little bit of pride at completing all this riding. And for the most part, it was spectacular. And the rest was great.
Well, we have run out of time on this amazing experience, but we've accumulated countless memories to take along home with us. Not a bad trade-off, if you ask me.